Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's Will. Today we're gonna be doing another Is It Worth It? Episode 2. Today we're gonna be seeing if RC-20 retro color is worth it.
Hey Will, this shit is fucking cold.
Before we start this video, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter. I don't care. Follow me at HoodWil on everything, Now, first I'm gonna play this beat, this loop I made a long time ago. It's not mixed. I think there's a version of this beat because I did put it on YouTube. This is just the loop version of it. So it's not the mixed version.
I don't want to cut into your recess time, Albert, but there's something I have to talk to you about. It's about our new boy, Dennis. Have you noticed something unusual about him?
So as you can hear, it kind of sounds vintage for the loop that I made. And all I did was put, so this is what I used to put on my old things. I used to put tape plugin, J37. I used to put vinyl plugin. I had the isotope vinyl on it. So I used to use that. It does that. Or I would use Mondo Mod, which is a similar effect, but we're not going to get into that. So this plugin is kind of an all-in-one, a retro color plugin. I don't know how many presets it has. I tried counting them. I forgot. I think around 60 maybe. It might say on the website, but we might go through those today. Here's what the original melody sounds dry. So we're just going to loop that. Let's do it. No effects. So some of these do have vintage reverb, and I am using like vintage plugins that kind of have sound of vintage way. I'm using like a Mellotron plugin, just arbitrary analog stuff. So it's just some Mellotron sounds and some like vintage like Rhodes or whatever, E-piano. So we're gonna get into the coloring. I'm just gonna go through the settings and see what they do. First up, we got the presets. If you click this, it goes into the presets. If you unclick it, it goes and you can sort through them. And then here we have the magnitude, which is basically like a kind of like a mix knob, or you can use the mix knob up here or here, same thing, but I would just mix down here with these knobs. And the first thing we have a vinyl plugin. So there's like different types of sounds. Actually, let's turn these off just to see what it sounds like individually. So you could get some like this is like a lo-fi kind of sound. So there's different types of vinyl noises, and the tone, which is kind of like how you want it to sound, like on the frequency spectrum, I guess. Like this is a lower frequency, higher frequencies. It's more crackly when you go up here, more like rumbly down here. We got routing. I think this just means if it goes through the other effects. I'm not really sure what routing does, to be honest. Follow. I guess it's how the frequency of it, not like the pitch frequency, but it's like how often it happens, I guess. So I think that's like an attack release thing with the duck following the duck, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And we got the flux. That's kind of how choppy it is. And let's just go back to the presets. Just got a PayPal notification, dope. And we got the mix knob right here, which is how loud you want it. Let's get rid of that. And we got the wobble here. This is the secret sauce. It's kind of like what Mondo Mod does. It's like pitch modulation. You can hear what it does. And we got another mix knob right here. But let's just keep it like this. Let's actually keep it extreme so you can hear what's happening. First, you got the wow and flutter. So you can kind of visually see what it's doing. So So this is kind of more like LFO type stuff. This is more like I forgot what you call it. Fuck, I don't know, but you can kind of see what it does. This is like kind of faster, slower, and then it mixes together. And we got rate of the wow, so you can change it, and the rate of the flutter. So you could get some like laser sounding stuff, but probably don't want it too extreme. So you could change these. So I think this is routed to this. This is routed to the flutter. And stereo, it gives it a nice stereo sound. And again, we got the mix knob and the flux. Kind of detunes it some more, I think. So you can really get that vintage sound, detuned sound. And then we got distort, which is really good because like if you want vintage sounding stuff, it kind of has like a nice distortion to it a bit. Like it could sound like it's on a radio or something. So you can really get some heavy stuff, some light stuff. And you could actually focus on a certain frequency that you want to distort. So let's say you wanted to distort the high end, you'd go like this. Low end, you go like this. But that's more like mid frequency, but. And you got another mix knob, kind of does the same thing as down here. Got a flux. Kind of like add some more imperfections in it, I guess. That's what the flux does.
Well, I'm gonna have to look that up actually.
Flux adds warm analog style fluctuations. So the flux knob is basically just the fluctuations in it. Kind of adds some randomness to it, so it sounds more organic. And we got digital, which kind of is a bit crusher, I think. Yeah, it's a bit crusher, so you can get some lo-fi sounding stuff. And then again, you can focus it on certain frequencies. And you could do a high cut or low cut. So this, with the cut off, it actually makes it so it's like, okay, I'll show you on EQ. So this is when it's not cut. So you could take off some frequency. You could focus it on these frequencies. It's not going to cut it completely though. But when you cut it, it's like that. So it's a complete cut. So that's basically what that does with the EQing. And the smooth. To me, this sounds like it's like kind of EQing it a bit. You can kind of see what it does. So it's basically smoothing out the bit rate, I guess. So it's more squarish, but it's like kind of smoothing it out. And the flux again adds fluctuations in it. And we got two mix knobs. And space, this is basically just reverb. Decay is how long the reverb is. So if let's do it all the way wet. So that's a longer reverb. And if you want a shorter one, you put the decay down. So if you want it to sound like it's a small box, if you want it to sound like it's in like a big room, then you do a longer decay. And pre-delay is like kind of like the reverb doesn't hit until like a certain point, so it kind of counts like 16 milliseconds and then it hits. Yeah, but basically, let's say the sound hits right here, it waits however long the pre-delay is, and then the reverb starts. And the focus, again, that's just like EQing. Flux adds fluctuation. Stereo gives it a nice stereo feel. If you want it mono, I don't know why you'd want a mono reverb, but yeah. And here we got magnetic, so it kind of adds some choppiness to it. I think it's like a wear and flutter, so yeah, I think this is just like tape emulation. So the rate just controls the flutter, how you want the flutter to sound, where. I think this is like how choppy it is, kind of. And flux again adds fluctuation, so it sounds more organic. Now we're gonna take all these off, and then down here we have the in gain. So if you want it to be more distorted, you could put it all the way up, but let's not do that. And then right here we got the EQ. You could turn it on and off. You could make it cut. You could make it have more resonance right here. So basically what that does, like I said earlier, the cut, it just cuts it. What the resonance is, it's basically doing that. So it's like kind of notched out. And you can control the frequencies, the low frequency, the high frequencies, and yeah. So if you want it notched, you can just kind of hear what that sounds like. If you want it cut, this is kind of like a steeper cut right here, I guess. And then we got a tone knob here. So looks like this is like it looks like this is a high pass, or I guess you could see up here, boost the mids. Right here, it's a tilt. I don't know what that means. It kind of gives it more high end, low end. So if you want it to sound a certain way, this boosts the mids. So if you want it to sound like radio-like, and we got the width knob, which is basically just stereo. So it pushes that more out. And out gain knob, that's just how loud it is. And then we'll go through the presets and see what it sounds like. Let's actually start up here. Kind of lo-fi sounding. So they got cassette presets too. So some really cool sounding stuff. More lo-fi stuff. More lo-fi stuff. This one sounds really nice and wide. So you got some really nice sounding presets. I'm gonna show you how I use it personally. I use it on all my like vintage sounding loops, or all my like, if I want to try to make some like trap stuff, I use it on that. Sometimes I don't really like how the wobble is sometimes, so I'll use like mono mod with the wobble too. Like I'll put a little bit of wobble on it. Again, mono mod. I turn these off, set the BPM, and put it on a little bit, and I'll put this on a little bit, like maybe like 5, and I'll boost this maybe. And I'll change it to like maybe vinyl 2, maybe mess with the tone, mess with the volume. I turn the distortion down. And I might put some reverb on it to make it sound vintage. But sometimes I do use another reverb plugin. I've been using this one lately for my vintage stuff. I put a vintage verb on it, so it's by Valhalla. And turn the mix down. Maybe change it to like room or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's basic stuff. Pretty easy to do. It's one of my favorite plugins to use at the moment. So I do have beats where I did use it. So I used it on this, I believe. So you could get some really cinematic, dark sounding stuff. So it's a really nice plugin.
Hey, Will, this shit is fucking cold.
And I use it on this.
Hey, Will, this shit is fucking cold.
And it switches up at the bridge. You can kind of hear how the retro color sounds. So you could get some really cool sounding stuff, kind of more modern, like make your stuff sound like it's sample when it's not. Is this plugin worth it? I think it is. I got it for $50, 50 something dollars on Black Friday. It's a pretty good plugin for its price. I think it's worth it. Please rate, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you want more videos like this, and tell me what plugin or VST you want to see next. Maybe software, I don't know, but yeah, let me know.